Nicole Reyes. So the piece that I submitted is called Watch Your Back, and it's basically about this group of friends who leave a bar and then they get into a tragic accident. At first it was supposed to be a piece I was going to turn into a book, but I never did anything with it, and then I decided to submit it into this competition.
So it's a short story?
Yes.
It sounds a little deep. Can you tell me what encouraged you to write about this?
I think I was on Wattpad, I believe, a site that I used to read, and I'd been reading so much that I felt motivated to write. At first it was going to be like a romance book, but then took a turn.
So what kind of books do you usually like to read?
Soap operas, mysteries.
Do you want to major in English?
Possibly, yes.
What schools are you looking at?
I'm looking into Cornell, some state colleges such as Geneseo, and then some in the cities like NYU.
What's your favorite thing about reading or writing?
For the most part is on the sites that I read on, I can interact with the authors and kind of change the course of the book sometimes, and that's fun.
Do you think you're going to end up writing a novel in the future?
I hope to. I want to.
What's your favorite book ever?
I always say The BFG by Roald Dahl, which was the first book I ever reread, and I'm a huge rereader of books. I love Roald Dahl deeply and passionately. He was certainly influential to me when I was a child reading, and I think influenced me with his sort of darkness that I like adding in my books as well.
I saw James the Giant Peach not too long ago.
Oh yeah. I'm such a stickler for adaptations of his books because I don't think anyone ever really gets them right. That one isn't so bad, and I feel like the Matilda on Broadway was pretty good, but I hate the Matilda movie.
Really?
Yeah, I hate it. I know, and I think a lot of people disagree with me on that, but I'm a purist.
I mean, I haven't read the books, but I like that his kids are always like the
They're
hero.
wonderful, and the adults are awful. So many of them are just beyond cruel. I was such like a fraidy cat as a kid. It's weird to me that I think kids are drawn to explorations of darkness in sort of a safe space, and he does it so well because he does it with a lot of humor and a lot of really whimsical prose.
He was just brilliant. I mean, when he put things together, it's like, who thinks about this?
I know, and just the concepts he comes up with, for sure. And then I would have to say also Tolkien. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings nerd. He inspires me with world building, certainly. I don't think I'll ever ascend to that level, but I try.
I haven't read the books, but the movies are amazing.
The movies, those are a fantastic interpretation of the books, with the exception of the third one where I have problems, but the first two are just absolutely, I think, perfect. Because a nerd directed them, like a guy who's actually super nerdy about Lord of the Rings and about Tolkien, just got so much detail in that book lovers will love with the same action that people who don't know the story can follow along.
They give me a little bit of anxiety because I just want to know like, what's going on, but I love them. I read that you wanted to be an actress, but you ended up a writer. How did that change come about?
Well, I studied theater at NYU, but in order to be an actor, you have to audition for things. And I was terrified of auditioning. I don't know if it was a fear of success or fear of failure or both, but I would always make up excuses not to audition. And you have to. If you want to be an actor, you have to audition for things. And I felt like with writing, when I finally sort of discovered writing, I could do it on my own. All I needed was my imagination and a computer or a pen and paper. Whereas to be an actor, you need a script and a cast and a director and a space and an audience. So it felt like something where I could be creative on my own time, in my own space, on my own terms. And then I realized this is what I meant to do because I did fail with writing. I wrote a book that got me into grad school. It was terrible. I revised it and I submitted to agents, like 60 agents, and it was just soundly rejected. And I had to be like, okay, I guess this isn't the book. But, I cried and drank a lot of wine. And I was like, well, you can keep crying about this or you can write another book. I had 1 semester of school left. And I was like, well, let's write another book. And that was my thesis and that was The Jewel and that was my first book.
Do you think that you would want to have any of your books turned into movies?
That would be super cool. My books are very opulent, so there's lots of ball gowns, parties, palaces, and I would love to see all that on screen. And like sexy boys, that would be incredible. I'm just so thrilled to get any email from a fan or anyone saying I read your book and I enjoyed it. It's just like, my imaginary friends and you like them too? Oh, that's so great. Thank you.
What's your go-to place for inspiration?
If I'm feeling really stuck, I'll take a walk. There is no way to get inspired. You just have to do it. It's just about, as exhausting as it is, opening the document, putting words down on the page. It's always a matter of just pushing through sometimes and saying, get words down because you cannot fix a blank page. You can only solve what is there. Even if you have to delete everything that you wrote and start over again, at least you had some sort of attempt. One thing I have learned over the course of writing several books is that I've learned how to fail better. I know that first drafts are always terrible, so I'm not precious with them. I'm not like, oh my god, is this the perfect chapter? Is this the perfect sentence? Is this the perfect scene? I'm like, I'll probably get cut anyway. Once your editor gives her input, it's like, oh, that whole plot line's done, and it should be like this now, and this should be happening in this place instead of that place. I know that things are mutable, and so I'm less sort of attached to things.
Do you think it's best to write in like first person, second person, third person?
I think it just depends on the book. My first series was first person present. My current series is third person close, 4 different narrators, which suits that story better. So it really just depends on what story you're telling. I felt certainly very handcuffed by the end of my first series because it was first person, and I was like, God, there's so much happening and I can't see it if Violet doesn't see it. So I think that's what made me go to third person for my second series. I want to be able to explore a bunch of different viewpoints and not just one. And then I'll probably go back to first person because, oh my God, it's really hard doing multiple narrators. So I'll probably give myself a break with whatever I write next. Challenge yourself constantly. Like, I don't want to be writing the same thing over and over again.
Besides becoming an author, what would you say is the biggest way that reading influenced your life?
It saved me in many ways and many times. I guess one example would be I had a very close friend die very suddenly, and I just read Harry Potter again for the umpteenth time for like a week. It was the only thing I could do that would make me feel okay. If I'm having a relationship end, if I'm in any sort of stressful situation, I have books that I go to. Lord of the Rings is one of them. This is why I love rereading, because I'll just go back and be like, oh, let me remind myself of this place and these people. I really feel like certain books are like a blanket and a hot mug of cocoa and a fire. They just feel like really comfortable and really comforting.
Are you reading a new book now?
I'm actually reading The Handmaid's Tale right now, which my series was compared to and I've never read. And I was like, I don't want to read it. This story was not influenced by The Handmaid's Tale, so let me wait until the series is done. And it finished last year. And then I watched the Hulu series and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing and depressing. And the book's absolutely magnificent. It's incredible. So I'm glad I'm finally getting around to it.
I was raised in Newark, New Jersey, and it was very difficult. And I was sent away to boarding school for behavioral modification purposes, and it worked. I got introduced to a whole set of opportunities that I wouldn't have had I stayed in my neighborhood, my community. And I ended up doing well, going to Ivy League school and getting a good job. But I felt like it's my responsibility, since I have the means to do something, to actually help people who grew up the way that I did to have success. And really for me it was writing that started it all. I was a reporter for my high school newspaper and did pretty well on the SATs, and I always felt like it was a key that really unlocked a lot of doors for me. Surprisingly enough, the biggest door that unlocked was on Wall Street, because I started as a researcher and I wrote research reports, and then I became a trader and did well. I really felt like I should provide similar opportunities for people that grew up the way that I did.
Do you think that you would go to Newark to have a similar program?
My mother and her husband are educators in Newark, and so I help them out all the time. I'm there all the time. I love it.
Yes, it's needed.
Yeah, call the crib, same number, same hood, it's all good.
What's your favorite book?
Well, my favorite books are the Game of Thrones books. I've read them multiple times. I know at a literary event it's probably a little gauche to say that, but
They're great.
I love
Narnia.
I'm going to read them again.
Your first video was do your own lipstick.
Yes, it was.
How do you know from lipsticks to slime?
So one day I saw a Pinterest tutorial on how to make slime, and I thought it was so much fun. I did that basic one, but it was just one recipe. So I wanted to take that and do different things, experiment, throw random stuff in it for different textures. I would do weird things. For example, I made an Oreo out of clay and then stuffed it with slime. And then it just became this thing where it was like a big part of my life. I'm literally like 90% slime on my channel. It's pretty crazy.
I saw you made this almost 100-pound ball of slime.
Yeah.
What made you decide to make it so big?
I don't know, I feel like I'm so extra with my videos and so weird that I feel like bigger is better. Whenever I do slime, it's rare for me to do a normal batch. I love doing the big old batches. It's just so fun because I feel like I'm like drowning in it. It's amazing.
Now I saw in the video you were trying to carry it, but it was really hard.
Yeah, it was literally like running away, well, rolling away. It was so hard to hold it. It was a hot mess.
Was anyone actually able to carry it?
No, I could not carry it at all. It was just rolling away.
Do you still have it, or did you use it for the slime challenge?
I actually ended up dumping it on my head. That was a hot mess too.
You're also into making candles.
Yes, I've done candles before, yeah.
Do you have a favorite scent, and do you use those candles like for you to relax?
I haven't made candles in a while, but I love anything that's scented. I feel like that's like same with slime. Anything scented relaxes me. My favorite one is Marshmallow Fireside. That candle is everything. Bath & Body Works candles in this season, I literally go crazy.
You're 23, right?
Yes, I'm 23 years
You're
old.
so young, and you wrote this book
Thank
about
you so much.
What made you decide to write it now and not wait till later on?
Well, my YouTube started off with crafting. I always wanted to do a crafting book, but I got so caught up into slime. So I got that book out first, a slime recipe book, and I decided, you know what? I need to go back to my roots where I started, and that was crafting. And I decided to come out with a craft book with a bunch of different DIYs, from back to school DIYs to like room decor to life hacks, everything that represents my channel aside from slime, because I felt like I was paying too much attention to slime. I thought it was time to finally come out with something craft related.
Aside from crafts, do you cook also?
Not really. I have this thing with my friends every week where we make enchilada night, but that's all I know how to make. I'm not a good cook at all.
I saw that you're into science fiction, mythological stories, and love stories.
Yes.
Can you tell me what your favorite love story is?
My favorite love story is actually Pride and Prejudice. And I'm just having to write a retelling that's coming up next. And I love it. I didn't know I would love it as much as I did, but the more I get to understand the story, the more I love it.
Dawson is very classic. She's amazing.
Yes, she is. And I love the class versus class story. Rich boy, poor girl. I love that idea.
Is your novel an epic novel?
My next novel is not an epic novel. It's actually a little short and sweet, but really, really strong on love and sweet moments and deep passion and love poems.
I love love stories. Can you tell me about your personal love story?
Well, I've been married for 16 years and I only dated my husband for a few weeks before he proposed.
So you just met him and you liked him right away?
No, he liked me right away.
So when did you tell him yes?
I said yes, thinking that he was asking me to be his girlfriend, but he was actually proposing.
What?
Yeah.
When did you know he was your one before he proposed?
He introduced me as his fiance.
What did your mom say?
She didn't know for a while until we were like, here's my ring, I'm getting married.
This is the best.
Yep, it's been fine for 16 years. It's been great, actually. 16 years and 3 children.
How do you incorporate reading into the lives of your kids?
Oh, we've been reading since they were in the womb. They're always reading and we're always talking about books. There's always several books on the dining room table. Books are everywhere in our house.
Do you think that one of your kids will also follow in your footsteps as a writer?
They don't want to. I have a singer and a dancer who love to write, but they'll probably change their minds later on because I didn't think I'd be a writer when I was their age.
What did you want to be before?
I wanted to be an attorney, a lawyer.
So what happened?
I discovered poetry while I was a journalist. Yeah.
What poem was it?
I discovered Nikki Giovanni. I discovered a book called For Colored Girls Who Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Was Enough. I discovered theater as well, so I think I discovered everything at the same time.
Are you reading a book right now?
I am reading a book right now, What Girls Are Made Of by Alana K. Arnold, who's also a National Book Award finalist like I am.
What role did reading play in your life growing up?
Wow, you know, reading was so important to me when I was growing up. I was a nerdy kid and didn't have a lot of friends when I was in elementary school, but I had a lot of friends because I had books. And so books were really like an escape for me, and books were really a great way for me to kind of dream a world.
What's your favorite genre?
My favorite genre of books is actually autobiographies. Yeah, I love an autobiography.
Growing up, which one was your favorite book?
I read a lot of like really weird, scandalous books. But I'll say a nice book. Judy Blume books. I still love Judy Blume books.
She was every girl's best friend growing up, but
Yeah.
she told you what your parents did.
Exactly.
What book are you reading now?
I'm reading the biography of Nelson Rockefeller.
Do you think you'll ever write your own book sometime?
I'm actually working on my own book right now. Kind of a narrative, but it's more of a self-help book about how I changed my career at the age of 38 and therefore changed my life.
What made you decide to put it down on paper, really?
Because I have this really great workshop called Life Vision where I talk about my journey and how I changed my life. And what I realized is that when women would come to the event, they would want a takeaway. They would be like, oh my God, you said so many great things. I wish there was a book so that I could reference back what you said. And I said, oh, I should write a book.
Do you have these workshops often?
Not that often, maybe about 4 times a year. All over, but definitely in New York.
Where can other women follow up for the workshop?
Well, you know what? You can follow me on social media at Bevy Smith. And whenever I decide to do them, it's always posted.
Wait, thank you so much.
Well, thank you, baby.